to the, May 2nd, 2024 meeting of the Planning Board as well as the AHRB. We have a number of items on our agenda this evening, and I'll make a motion that we open the meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. First item on our agenda, this is AHRB public meeting agenda, 231 Judson Avenue, AHRB review for proposed exterior changes to home. Yes, please.
I just pull it up on the screen.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the interface.
Yeah.
Neither are we.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, no, that's the
A
wrong
different
project.
one.
You can present it.
I'll present it to them.
Yeah.
I think that's GBA.
Yes, okay, great. All right. Good evening, my name's Jonathan. I work with Stephen Seacon Architect. I'm here on behalf of the Bly family who live at 231 Judson, and I'll be presenting the exterior changes that we're doing for their house. We're doing some interior renovations and alterations which require some changing of existing windows and new window openings. So, let me scroll. Yep, that's good. I also just brought this board as well.
Well,
Yeah. Oh, it's a little far. So on the north elevation, I'll just, sorry. On the north elevation, we're doing some interior renovations, adding bedrooms and bathrooms. So we're adding a new casement window on the second floor, and on the first floor, we're replacing existing double-hung windows to 2 casements and fixed. The existing double-hung windows are not because compliant, so these will be. We're also adding another casement window. This is the elevation that faces the street. The side elevation that faces the neighbor, we're removing an existing bay window and fixed window, and we're just replacing it with two additional casements and a small sliding window above a shower. And in the rear, that faces the school and the hill. We're replacing the existing double-hung windows as the same in the front with casements and a fix. So again, these are egress compliant. All other exterior changes, the casement trim for the windows, it's all to match existing. Any patching and fill, we're just matching the existing wood siding and the existing brick. If you have any questions, I can answer that.
yeah, thank you. Any comments?
No.
No, I just want to say at the outset, just to, in the interest of full disclosure, I live literally across the street. This is the house that we've seen for 33 years. So I don't think that impacts my ability.
Well, now's your chance to, ask you to do anything you want.
Yeah,
Right?
2 more. Yeah, so.
Yeah, good.
Are there any changes happening on the inside?
Yeah, if we scroll up one slide. A lot of these windows are reflecting sort of a reconfigured bathroom and master bedroom, and in the basement, it was an open basement. Now there's 2 bedrooms and a big bathroom. So it's about, the house, each floor is about 1,600 square feet, about like 400 upstairs and 600 to 700 downstairs
Do we have any role with the interior
No,
changes?
No.
Okay.
no, no,
So it's really just the windows?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
yeah. That sounds fine.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Do we have to hold for a public hearing, then? Do we have to go through that formality or not?
It's just
No.
AHRB.
No
Oh,
public,
it's just AHRB?
Yes.
Okay.
no, no, it's just us.
Do we have a resolution?
Yes, we do have a resolution. So, whereas the applicant is seeking AHRB approval for interior alterations and partial modification of retaining, exterior alterations and partial modification of retaining wall, the property is located at 231 Judson Avenue. Now therefore be resolved, the AHRB of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based on the findings and reasons set forth below, the application for architectural and historic review is approved, and the application refers to the approved plans.
I move. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda, 26 Briary Road, AHRB review for proposed exterior changes to home.
Pretty small change here. It's the replacement of an existing wood exterior staircase.
Just state your name and address.
Oh, Vanessa Robinson, 26 Briary.
Thank you.
So same footprint. The only change is 4 feet along the house. And there were photos included in the application. That might be helpful. So the next page is existing. So the extension is the 4 feet to the left, but same, otherwise exact same footprint. Replacing the existing wood with wolf trim, the PVC composite. And because of that, the landing needs to be redone, so I believe it's the 4-inch concrete with new pavers. So the new pavers will replace existing pavers on the existing walkway and existing patio, which I think is a spec on the following page, page 7.
Well,
Any lighting changes or anything?
Sorry,
Lighting?
lighting? No.
Okay.
no. Sounds fine to me.
Sounds fine to me.
Okay.
Yes, I have a resolution. Whereas the applicant is seeking AHRB approval, the property is located at 26 Briary Road. Now therefore be it resolved, the AHRB of the Village of Ferry grants AHRB approval, subject to the following conditions, and the resolution refers to the approved plans, which were, the plans that were just provided and presented.
Yeah. So move. Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we will go on to the next series of approvals, Planning Board public hearing and AHRB public hearing agenda. The first item on this agenda is 107 Palisade Street, public hearing for proposed approval of final plat for subdivision.
I believe that one is-
We approved the architecture, so at this point it's
Right.
We just want to know if you got any questions for us.
Just state your name and
Oh, Richard Lorenz, 107 Palisades.
Okay,
they're going for final plat approval. So it was the same as the preliminary.
We've looked at all the architecture and others.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
okay.
And this hasn't changed from our previous,
No,
okay?
Well then,
it's a public hearing.
it is a public hearing, and is there anybody from the public here or online that would like to speak to this? Okay,
Close the public hearing.
I think we should close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So do we have a resolution?
Yes, I do have a resolution. So the resolution, basically, I'm just going to summarize it because it's a little bit more lengthier because it's a final plat. But basically, it recognizes the applicant at 107 Palisade Street. It identifies that this already went through seeker in the last round when it was coming before the board for preliminary plat. It also acknowledges the two variances that it received from the zoning board of appeals. And it also notes a negative declaration on seeker was done at your April 4th, 2024 meeting. And so there now therefore be it resolved, a couple things, the planning board hereby finds that a proper case exists for requiring a park to be suitably located for playground or other purposes. And so that's one findings that this resolution is making. Also, it refers to the approved plan specifically dated February 22nd, 2024. And then finally, the other conditions are that the applicant must satisfy all outstanding engineering concerns, and that ultimately, in accordance with the section 270-75, the board may extend the time for filing and recording of an approved plat, but it shall not exceed should not allow for extensions to exceed more than 2 additional 90-day periods.
Can you just clarify again the open space requirement?
Sure.
And tell me what.
So technically under subdivision regulations, any new lot that gets identified, the planning board needs to make a findings that there is no recreation on site, and that in order to accommodate the new potential recreation impacts for that community, that a fee would be assessed in accordance with the master fee schedule.
So move it. So, okay. So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Out for an early lead. Sometimes it comes apart in the second half.
Let me just.
Wait a minute. He's moving.
They look different.
All right. So we'll move on to Lyman Place.
I understand.
Next item on our agenda, 11 Lyman Place, continuation of public hearing for proposed subdivision for 2 new single-family houses.
Good evening. I'm Christina Griffin. I'm the architect for these two homes on 11 Lyman Place. I'm going to take you through the latest drawings. We have changed the design of both houses. The house on Lot 1 has been reduced in size. Footprint now is smaller, has a wraparound porch, no garage. The house is 2210 square feet. And the house on the left, we reduced in size by bringing the back of the house 2 feet 4 inches back. And the area is 2,686 square feet instead of 2,710 square feet. So we went ahead and redesigned the homes because of the response, in response to the concern of bulk and to make sure the houses would be a better fit on that street. Lot 1 house, this is our streetscape. Let's see if I can enlarge this. You see Lot 1 house now has a pitched roof, a peak, but has dormers coming out on both sides. So
I can see.
very much like the other houses that are on that street. I'll blow that up in a second. The neighborhood plan shows the two houses in blue and the porches in yellow, and you can see the footprints are within the range of sizes that are on the street. And I just want to remind the board that the neighboring homes vary from under 2,000 square feet to 2,500 next door and 3,300 on Manor Place and the property behind. So, so we have two houses now that are 2,200 and the one on the left is 2,686 square feet. This is our lighting plan that we revised to show the current design of the homes and the new lighting layout. Our new sky exposure diagrams, the houses were put back into the diagrams to see if they fit and they are well within the parameters of the sky exposure plane. Our landscaping plan also changed to show the new footprint. There is a driveway on the right for the Lot 1 house that is tucked into the side of the wraparound porch, and then it has evergreen screen to the right between the driveway and the neighboring house. We also set up the setbacks to make sure that we had enough room for the driveway for 2 cars and also the privacy hedge. The footprint and the layout of the driveway on the Lot 2 house is same as before. Also want to point out that we have different setbacks to show a variety in setbacks. So that Lot 1 house has a setback of 26 feet 4. Lot 2 is 24 feet 6, so they vary by 2 feet. Here are the elevations for the Lot 1 house. We lowered the height of this house by 2 feet 5.5 inches. We tucked the second floor up into a roof line that has steep dormers on both ends and then shed dormers on the sides. This is the Lot 2 house. Hipped roof as before. It has it's been reduced in length to open up the backyard, just to and also to reduce the bulk. But it's very similar design to before in other respects. And this is our new color scheme. Planning to have a house on the right to be white clapboard, which is actually a composite cellular clapboard, and I could show you a picture of that. We have a standing seam roof in the front at the wraparound porch, which is like a silver gray, and then a light gray or silver gray type door to go with the roof. The house on the left has a darker, warmer gray type of color for the roofs, also standing seam at the hipped roof at the porch, and a warm gray for the front door and the garage door. These are our 3D models of each house. This is without the context. This is an aerial view looking down at the two houses. You can see the house to the right, the blue house, which is a 2-story gable home. House in the back at Minor Place, 2-story high, little larger home. The house to the left, which has a steep gable roof, very much like the design of the Lot 1 house. And this is our streetscape. I'd like to see if I can blow this up. We took some time to stitch photos together to try to get the whole street and get these on and make sure they're accurate. And so what you're seeing at the end of the street are the 2 new houses, and to the right, the 3 houses towards the end. And this is the most streetscape we could get in one view without the houses getting too small. And I think, you know, we all really like those little houses on the end, so we wanted to make sure that it was in the view. And that is, oh, I have a few other images to show you. There's the civil engineering drawings that were also changed to show the new footprints of the 2 houses. I have some images of the materials that we'd like to use. Let's see. Second. Okay. Can't seem to get this up. Oh, it's all on Zoom. Okay. Just to give you an idea of the material, it's called new cedar. This is the shingle that we want to use on the Lot 2 house. Vincent Company makes a clapboard. And right now we have both houses as white, but we could use this is a kind of a taupey color that is probably what we could use for the Lot 2 house if we want to have some more variation. It's something we can discuss. And I'll go back to the drawings if you'd like to see if you have any other questions. That's the end of our presentation for tonight.
Okay, thank you. It's a public hearing. I move that we open the public hearing. Is it a public
It's
hearing?
the continuation of a public hearing.
Yeah.
Continuation of public hearing.
Yeah, it's a continuation.
Before we go to the public, I want to offer a couple of thoughts. First of all, I think this is orders of magnitude better than all of the previous submissions. There are, in fact, I would say at this point, the two things that I are still, I feel like issues, but I think that they are probably easy to resolve, is I think that while the front and rear the front elevations in particular look great, and they look animated, and they look different enough in my opinion, the side elevations, not so much on Lot 1 residence, but the side elevations for Lot 2, if you go to that sheet, those still look to me pretty mammoth and pretty unrelieved. And I think if you could find a way to either with some additional bump out or something that would correspond to some other break in the roof, it would go a long way towards relieving the sense of the massiveness of the side of the house. To me, that's the only architectural issue that I have. We'll see how other people feel about it. Otherwise, I think the houses just look an order of magnitude better than they have. It's great that way. And then the other thing is, which was actually a comment that somebody from the public had who wrote correspondence to us, is whether or not we could reduce the amount of impervious coverage assigned to the parking areas on both sites. And I guess I have a question for Dan. I know it's not, people don't always like, usually we have people say to us, don't put any more parkings on our street. Make them do all off-street parking. But I actually have a letter, we have a letter from someone who said, make them park on the street. Which I'm sort of more in favor of. I guess, Dan, are there we're allowed to do 2 spaces bumper to bumper in a single file?
You are allowed to do tandem parking.
Right, you can do tandem parking. So that would be the only thing that I would say, is that it'd be great if the front could be a lot greener by having tandem parking on either side instead of 2 side-by-side off-street parking spaces. Other than that, those are my only comments. Those 2 long facades and the parking configuration. Otherwise, I feel like.
Do you want me to respond?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I'll take a look at what we can do on that long facade. We have one side of the house has a bay window, but there could be some change in the roof line or something that might help that elevation, so I'll take a look.
Okay.
And for the driveways, taken a lot of care to make driveways minimal as possible. You get 2 cars side by side, just because as a practical matter, thought that would be best. But I have narrowed the driveway so that it doesn't come out the width for 2 cars all the way to the curb.
No, I know.
And I actually had a home with that, and you can put shrubbery just to soften the look of the driveway, so you don't see the whole width from the street. It's doing tandem is like forcing now, I think, something that might be difficult for the homeowners one day, because you always take some car out.
Although, you can park on the street, right? I mean, this is a very narrow street, and the distance from the curb to the front is not very much. Consult the developer, I get it. I don't know if other people have.
I do agree with your comments, Rob, thank you. And the only thing I don't see on there is the resolution of the perimeter of the property line. So what's going to happen with the concrete wall in the back there and the perimeter, if there's any note that, are you going to replace the concrete, or are you going to put up a fence, I'm just asking. I know that it was mentioned the last time, but
I think we agreed we have to look at it and see if it can be repaired,
Mhm.
what needs to be done. But I don't know how since we haven't done that yet, know if that can be put into the resolution, or we need to give you a letter. Just need to know what do you need from us to make sure that we look into it. I don't know if it has to be replaced, be repaired at this point.
well, when I viewed it, it wasn't in great condition. So I'm just mentioning it that
That's 311.
I don't see any notes in the drawing. So I'm just curious.
So we can handle it with a note, if you like, on the drawing, on the
Mhm.
site plan, to show that we're going to investigate and either repair or replace the wall,
Mhm.
depending on the condition.
Would that be satisfactory, Valerie?
Yes, and I believe In the draft resolution that I prepared a little while ago, I think I did mention, I think I do have something about a retaining wall, so I'm gonna just take a look.
Okay, thank you.
Christina, I do have a concern about the color, the facade colors being so similar.
Yes, I know they're shown at white right now, and I think what we'd like to do is make the one on the right white, and the one on the left that silver color of that shingle that I just showed you.
So they'll be different color.
Yes, the roofs are different, slightly different colors. The White House is a silvery gray color, and the kind of a taupey gray for the door. The house on the left has more warm gray tones. You know, there are Benjamin Moore colors that don't come out too well in this color scheme, but and the roofs are a warm gray. And then we would use all the trim is white, and you can do that cold oyster new cedar siding for the house on lot 2. So it's different than the White House.
Thank you.
What about, a neighbor sent us a very interesting letter, and this relates to your drawing S3. What's the streetscape, the scale of houses? The neighbor's at 3 Lyman, and he did a correction to the drawing that showed his property actually about 5 feet lower than it's drawn on that, in the upper left there, in the streetscape. And he listed the height of his house at 26 feet, which is much smaller than the 30 feet of Lot 2, 11 Lyman, which makes a big difference in the scale of his house versus 11 Lyman.
We can take a look at that and correct it, because we're looking at photographs and trying to judge the scale, so it
It's really
looks like we
quite,
lined up the lots and maybe
quite striking,
should have
the
looked at
difference.
the height and definitely can correct that. Yeah. I agree with you, it's lower.
yeah, see, that's, where's it, 26, and it's
Well, it looks different.
30.
Yeah.
What height do you have? Oh, I'll look at the letter.
Yeah, he shows his house at 26 feet.
Dan, do you remember what is the, do we have I know for the setback, we have a range that's based on the prevailing setback. Do we have anything similar with the height?
The height is no, we have a height
Code, no.
in the OF6, and the sky plane exposure controls that too.
Right, but there's no averaging, the way there is with the front setback, where you can
No,
look
it's
at the
not
houses on either side.
Prevailing height, and that's.
There's not a prevailing height concept?
No.
Okay.
Also, that house is kind of the top of the hill,
Yeah,
so.
so it has a better
Yeah.
visual, I get it.
The house on lot 2, the height, we have the height to the midpoint of 25 feet.
Oh, so
10 3/4, but to the ridge, it's probably another 4 or 5.
So it's more like
It's
30
probably
feet.
around 29 or 30 feet high from the average grade. And we're using a 6 and 12 pitch, which I think is as low as you can get to give it the traditional look.
you want to see this drawing that he sent?
Sure.
You may approach the bench.
Quite a difference.
I'll change it. I'll make sure. I think,
Maybe measuring differently.
I don't know.
Yeah,
We're
from another
estimating
point.
from a photograph and we got it, we're off.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you.
Because the rest of you guys saw this too, what do you think about it?
Yeah.
But it's quite a difference in scale.
I did read it.
There it is. Nope.
You can't see it, it's the other.
No,
end.
you can't. It's from the other
Yeah,
side.
way.
Yeah.
We just had trouble getting the whole street on, so I had to choose which houses to include.
In case it's a public hearing. I
Yeah.
guess we should-
No, I will. Yeah, okay, I'd like to open move to open the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. You're-
I'm Sarkon Parlak, the resident at 3 Lyman Place. Thank you again, Chairman and Planning Board members, for this opportunity. I just wanted to highlight a few things. So I do appreciate the changes done to the two properties. They do look different, but again, I would argue it's one plane. There's whole two planes, or all the surrounding structure, in which I would argue that there's some issues from my half, but again, it's not of my taste. It's more the code that we're trying to kind of entertain here. The first thing I would like to highlight, and just so that everyone else can see, is the sort of difference in, the streetscape and the sort of sizing used. I get it. It's easy to kind of glean from this that, these are gonna just fit, and then the roof lines kind of follow a nice little linear path. But the reality is, when you sit in front of my front lawn and look to the west, you'll see 311 Lyman property starts at about 5 foot higher. It's a gradual hill that goes there, which is worth highlighting because my property has like evergreen hedges at the front. But when you come up the hill from Luzerne and you take a left to Lyman, since there will be no trees at the front and on the side, you will see just this big facade that's going to be 5 foot elevated, and on top of that, it will be 2 full stories. Most of the homes in the area are 1.5 stories with the kind of roofs cutting in. So, I'm not saying I had a full measuring tape and I went up there, but I used my laser guide and I did the triangle thing, and including my porch, which is about 2 feet high, my house, which is 1.5 stories with just a attic up top, came to about 26. I went and measured my neighbor's home at 25 feet. So this is where I would like to highlight that, given that there are 2 full stories with the roofs, there's about a 6 to 7, maybe 6 to 7 feet delta between where the peak of my house would be and peak of this house would be. The other thing I would like to highlight is that in the submission, which is, there is no mention of any kind of plans to fix the forsythia that sits, and not just my personal privacy, but also for just kind of hiding, the reality, which I think this is going to be the home that'll be the first in the lot. Is that correct? Like when you come up, it's this one and then the smaller one, and then you get to 19 Lyman. That you would be seeing, I believe, this facade from the side. So in just helping maybe cover 1 story, so only 1 story peek out, would be great for me, but also, I wish I'd taken a photo in fall when the forsythia was bare, and you just kind of clearly see into this yard of the home that exists, but that home is also 20, 30 feet in. This home is going to be 15, 16 feet from the border of the property. So I would just like at least some, ask that the privacy hedges on this end should be addressed, because the current planning, I think, still states that the existing hedge to be retained here. So that's just one ask that I have. The other is, I don't know much about creating neighborhood context and just kind of making the homes fit, but if I scroll up here, and one of these drawings kind of made it. So it's here. So my home is a 1,500 square foot. It's relatively small, skinny, and tall. And then there will be the larger home, then a slightly smaller home, and another larger home. And I wonder, and I have no idea, this is, I don't want to create a lot of stuff, but I wonder if it makes sense, if this is how it's done, that the 2 properties be flipped. That you have a smaller home, slightly bigger home, and a bigger home, and a bigger home, rather than big, small, And I don't know which creates some. I'm not an architect and just kind of creating neighborhoods. That's what you do. But that was just a thought that I had, and that's not in my letter, but I'm just kind of guessing as to like what would shield, if you will, the bigger property to the extent like there's not going to be a change in square footage of these homes, that maybe the bigger home could hide behind the smaller home, which will be the first thing that you see when you come off the sort of, you make the turn, and then you look out west, if that makes any sense. So, so those are the main things I wanted to highlight. I mean, in just kind of arguing for the context of the neighborhood, the code does state that the homes should fit, you know, the relatively same-ish height. You know, you don't have 4 or 5 stories and 2 stories alike. So that's where my argument for the height difference really comes in. And I just want to kind of highlight, this is what you would be seeing, though this is an evergreen edge, so you'll be on the other side of it, you won't see it. It doesn't go all the way around either. I also have forsythia on the other side. So in fall, you would be seeing through my property into the side of the other property. So that's just all I wanted to kind of highlight. Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
So Robert Barbera, 66 Luzerne Road. I have something I want to show. Can I plug in the USB? So before I do that, or as I'm doing that, I did send a letter to the board asking, and I didn't hear any clarification, is there a cellar and how deep is the cellar going to be in these homes?
The
I'm not
cellar.
allowed to ask questions to them, so I'm asking.
Yeah.
We didn't know that was before.
There is no.
Yeah, 8 feet, you said, right?
So we've been having massive disturbance in our neighborhood for the construction that's taking place on Luzerne. Starting at 7:30 in the morning, we're hearing constant drilling and banging of rock. This neighborhood is all rock up there, and concerned on the old homes. The homes are, 100-year-old, close property line. What's the drilling going to be like? It's going to have to take place to go down into, make an 8-foot basement, and what type of survey research was done to the bedrock and the rock that's underneath these 2 houses, because there were huge, huge rocks and granite up there or whatever, but I'm not a geologist, but there's, major things. If you look at some of the neighboring houses, they don't have basements because the rock is all encroached into their basements.
Yeah.
See how I open it up.
Oh, I see.
Can't see the page number in this. Yeah, no, I can't see the page number on the,
Getting-
So this is the adopted official village plan, and the village plan does have wording about the knoll. A lot of people know the knoll as the undeveloped part of the village, but actually, if you look at the village plan, you see this whole neighborhood is considered the knoll, including Lyman Place and the surrounding streets. So when you look at the village plan, what it specifically says about the Knoll neighborhood is preserve the Knoll neighborhood as an attractive private place to live. Modest, I repeat, modest scaled houses on shady, lightly traveled streets. And furthermore, the village plan recommends to protect the character of the homes within the wooded landscape and hilly terrain. So once again, we stress modest scale homes. We saw on the plan again about some of the size of the homes that are neighboring and adjacent to the proposed houses, and that information is incorrect. We've seen other information that has been presented that has been incorrect. I think the 2,400 square feet for neighbor house includes the garage, includes the basement. So the information is not correctly being presented to the size of the homes that are in this neighborhood, which tend to be 1,500 to 2,000 square feet in size. And further, the village plan further recommends to employ upzoning, low-density zoning to control further subdivisions to the extent necessary to preserve the character of the neighborhood. So what is being proposed here doesn't really fit what the vision has set out from the Board of Trustees and Dobbs Ferry to protect this area that we consider the Knoll neighborhood. I would make one other quick comment, which in looking at the new proposed houses, I think it's the house on the right. So when it's further down the street, took the drive out, but it looks strange to me when I look at that house. It looks like it's cut in half. The way the porch is set on the house and wraps around, it's like, someone just cut the house in half. It's like missing something. So from an architectural standpoint, that looked very, very strange, to my eyes. So I hope you consider the concerns that we raise and the village plan in your consideration here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Daniel Burgess of 52 Luzerne Road. I would be looking across 3 Lyman from my window. I do see the lot as well. I just, really want to second everything my neighbors said. I also have the vision plan, and I do hope that you're still following the vision plan. I'm not going to repeat it, but it just, the comprehensive vision plan is really about preserving the neighborhood and the character of the neighborhood. Thank you for all the work that you've done over the last few months to work on that. I think, initially it was very clear it would have been, way too big and way too massive for the neighborhood. So thank you for addressing that. And, I do, really want to just ask you, does it fit into this neighborhood? Also, I don't know, it was maybe last time or the time before, I had asked about the state environmental review. It seems just like, kind of rubber stamped. So it'd be interesting to hear about that because, obviously, it's replaced, it's more, 2 houses is a lot bigger than 1 house on that lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Susan Smith Santini. I live at 104 Brewery Road. I'm just a couple of blocks from 11 London. I'm familiar with the neighborhood. I'm not an engineer, I'm not an architect. I walk in the neighborhood. And I would just say that what our neighbors have spoken about the height issue, I think it's really an issue. 11 Lyman is at the peak of the hill. My neighbor, who I haven't met, but he's my neighbor, on 3 Lyman, that house sits down. It's down. So, you walk in the neighborhood and you You don't have to be an expert to see that they're not on the same level. So I would just really like to underscore that I think as currently designed, the big house, the first one, the big house, is still too big, it's still too tall, and I really feel it would tower over the adjacent house. And I still think that both houses are not really in character with the neighborhood. I mean, made some improvements, and that's good, but for me, and I don't live on that street, I'm a few blocks away, I don't think it's in character with the feel of that street and that area of Vinall. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Adam Spielberger, I'm at 10 Manor Place, I'm directly behind the proposed property. My comments are specific to the retaining walls, which I did write in a letter. And there's also a two-car garage that I believe is going to be torn down, which is in the portion of the retaining wall. So the retaining wall goes across the property. Then there's the garage, which is the bottom of it is old stone, and then the retaining wall continues. I don't find it to be acceptable that in their approval to build that the retaining wall is just like we'll maybe fix it or replace it. I'd like to really understand what they're planning to do, because it's in disrepair. It's been in disrepair. It's already tipping over, and it's 150 feet of retaining wall around two pieces of property. I don't understand how no one's ever come and looked at it, and everyone sort of seems to scratch their head about it. But I believe, the same way they're showing, the siding or the roofing and, decking and things like that, they should, be providing samples of what the retaining wall is going to look like. And that does bring up to the point that Mr. Perlak said is my property and his property are both, 4 or 5 feet below the proposed buildings, which is why they look so extensive and broad when you're turning the corner. And even from my house, it's, aside from the height of the actual proposed building, we're 5 feet below it. So I'd like, I believe that we should have some answers towards that. And then also I second everything that they've conveyed. That's it. And thank you all for your hard work.
Thank you.
Thanks. You're at 10 Manor Place, right?
Correct.
I'm just looking at it here, yeah.
Yeah, and the architect did mention, my house is being about 3,000 square feet as being part of the neighborhood. I have pretty much, I would say, the exact same size property as what they're proposing, but I have one house, not two.
If the board wants, you can have the retaining wall looked at, or have the applicant provide information on the retaining wall, or maybe Dan, the building inspector, could take a look at it and look at the conditions of it.
That seems like a legitimate.
It's right on the property line. Retaining wall's right on the property line. Kristen? Okay.
Because we'd like to address it, just don't know when. And I'd just like to find out how he feels about it, because how we're going to approach that.
Good evening, members of the board. David Belay on behalf of the owners for Levin Lyman. As we stated in the past, obviously the retaining wall is a pre-existing condition. When we would start any site work or any other work involving the retaining wall or otherwise, we would obviously do whatever's necessary and required to meet code and compliance. It's pretty straightforward. This is nothing new when you start site work. So again, for a wall that needs repair, or we won't know because it's a pre-existing condition. So until we begin that site work, we would then further evaluate and make determinations as to how we would take care of it and resolve it. And obviously we'd do that in compliance with the code and so forth. So I understand the concern. It's duly noted and we are well aware of it, and we will obviously, of course, address it and do whatever's required in order to take care of it, to make sure it's safe and compliant and code compliant. And again, deciding how we do that now is pretty preemptive because we don't know what's involved with the garage, it's much more complicated. So before we get there, we would need an approval in order to proceed and get that done. And again, we can clearly note in the resolution that we address the retaining wall as required and make it compliant.
But couldn't you have some type of assurance of proposal of what the materials would look like, or what it, you know?
We would replace in like kind.
And it is on the property.
That's another question, because again, our survey is, it doesn't show the entire wall on our property. I believe there's a portion of it, so again, we don't need to do that all now, because we would obviously do, and by default, it would fall on us anyway because of what we're involved in, what we're disturbing. So we would then, by essence of disturbing what's pre-existing, we would make that all, obviously address the whole wall
I
entirely.
think what the neighbor's looking for is just assurance that you know something might have to be done.
But I think in past applications, when we dealt with retaining walls that potentially go onto a neighboring property, we usually ask for some sort of like, you know, the board tries to get the information to figure out how they would repair, right? If for some reason there needs to be repair or replacement, especially if it's dealing with potentially neighboring properties, usually you ask for some additional information and then potentially some sort of access agreement. I'm looking at you, Dan, and Dan, right?
No, I agree.
Can I respond?
No. Wait till it's done, and then you can go back.
I've walked the site and looked at those walls, and as I remember, they were all in terrible condition. I don't know if I'm remembering incorrectly, but I think they're gonna require serious effort to stabilize, and likely are gonna need to be replaced. And they're not very tall.
Again, that's gonna determine the extent of the disturbance. So again, it's a pre-existing condition that we would address and make compliant, and we would address it in like kind. And until we know the level of disturbance, because that's far out in the corner, we won't know. We just don't know until we get involved. And again, we're happy to note it and make it part of the resolution that we will address it accordingly.
So would that work, just to put something in the resolution saying, you know, before a certificate of occupancy is issued, those walls have to be repaired and stabilized?
I mean, I think it should be, yeah, I mean, it could be like prior to building permit issuance, their engineer evaluate the walls and what repairs are needed, and also to evaluate what's on your property and what isn't. This needs to be a question.
Well, again, we have a survey that tells.
Right, so if that's accurate and it's not on their property, you can't really make.
Well, it's not his responsibility if it's not on their property.
Right. So if that could work, you know, that could be put in the resolution to provide a plan of repair of the walls to the satisfaction of the building inspector and the village engineer.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Again, but the timing of that, you mentioned before permit.
Yeah.
Well, why would that,
Why wouldn't
that's
you be able to do it
gets
before the building
counterintuitive.
permit? Why
Because we have a ton of site work to do.
So why can't you evaluate the retaining walls?
We can certainly evaluate the retaining wall, but then why would that be a condition for us to proceed?
To present with the building permit application, a plan of what you're gonna do to the walls at that point.
It would be included all in the one.
Same way you're submitting a plan for the house and the building, you're gonna submit a plan that shows more detail on the site.
I just want to draw the distinction that that's a pre-existing condition,
It doesn't
not something
matter.
we're creating.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
I'm not sure that that's
I
relevant.
think it absolutely
No,
does
that's
matter.
not relevant.
Because
I don't
it's
think-
something
I don't-
that's already there, and
So
I
If
understand.
the wall is collapsing, it's pre-existing, we don't fix it, you're gonna fix it, right?
We're going to fix it, right?
So just say that on a plan, and evaluate what sections of the wall you're gonna fix, what you're not, because maybe it's not on your property, it's not on your survey, and identify that in the plan, and Dan and I can take a look at that, and we could.
I think I thought that's what we are saying. We're going to
what I
fix it.
said.
I've already said that in the past, though, in prior meetings.
Yeah, but just because you say it doesn't necessarily
No, I said we
mean-
make that part of the resolution.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're going to fix the wall.
yeah.
Right, but I think what Anthony is saying is that
How much?
he wants a plan as part of an application for a building permit.
As part of the application for the building permit, right, but not conditional on the approval of the subdivision and the resolution.
No, this is for building permit.
Oh, yes, okay,
Yeah.
that's clear.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The other issue brought up that made sense to me was having a evergreen barrier between 3 and 11 Lyman. Is that something you'd be willing to adjust your
We would certainly
landscaping
consider that,
plan
of
to
course.
accommodate?
We would consider that. I did have a question for my neighbor. Is the forsythia on his property or our property?
It's mostly on your property. It's right at the border.
So I think that is screening. That benefits you, that does not benefit you, correct?
Well, not in the fall when there's no leaves.
Well, right, but then again, are we creating a situation where the neighbors taking we'll address and obviously look at the screening if it requires additional screening, but which one's our landscape plan? Existing to remain. Because we support the fact that what's there, continue to use or keep versus move. So just want to make this distinction as to are we keeping it or you prefer to not keep it?
Well, if it's on his property, obviously that's not something that
Right.
we're asking you to do. But I do think we regularly ask applicants to provide screening between their new construction
Yes.
and existing
We would
properties.
certainly consider that. of
So I think what I'm saying is, can you add that to your landscaping plan?
Okay, we can look at that. Yes, of course, we could certainly look at that.
Thank you.
So a question about the basements in the rock. Is it, you did some exploration as to what's down there? And
Again, if we had the luxury of trying to do that in advance, again, if whatever site work is required is in the typical fashion of.
Is there an existing basement now in the current house?
Yes.
There is, okay.
Oh, well, that's good.
But did you have to do test holes to
There was
look at
the
the
soil
drainage?
test done, I don't
We did, and
know
it
exactly where on the property, but I had to look to see if they hit ledge rock. I don't think they.
So we know there's some areas outside the old house.
Right.
Where we could put the units, so don't. The engineers did the test holes for the storm drainage system, so they were able to put the units in the front where there was clear of rock, and there is a basement of the old house, so we don't know exactly yet what's happening where we're putting these houses.
Lot number 1, probably, right?
Wait, just clarification, you said you weren't sure exactly where you're putting the houses?
No, I meant that we don't know the condition of rock where the new houses are.
Right.
Okay.
We know there's a basement in the old house, and we know that there's enough space in the front of the houses to put the stormwater retention units into the ground based on the test pits. That's all we know so far.
So do the new houses that you're showing, are there plans for this house,
Yes,
these houses?
yes.
Yeah,
They're in the submission.
that's what you've been looking at.
They're in the,
No, it's this one here. You just showed us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've shown the plans before, but for the ARB, we were just, last go-around, we just submitted the elevations.
yeah,
Oh,
I don't see any.
I guess she's asking about interior plans.
I'm asking about interior plans of these new houses. Do we have any of that, or no?
Not for tonight. When I
Okay.
revised the elevations, I only submitted that, but I can provide
I'm just
that.
curious,
We have
'cause-
plans. We had to redesign the houses.
Correct.
To change the look.
We can provide that part of the.
But of
permit
course,
application.
we have them. I'd like to respond to a few comments, so.
Sure.
If you don't mind. One thing I would like to know, to let you know, is that the areas, I have the areas of all the houses, and it's based on the property cards, and we don't include the garage. I have mentioned that before. And this is the only information we have available for us to use. So, you know, we do have the house on the left, we have only 1421 square feet at 3 Lyman, and then at 19 Lyman, we have 2508 square feet.
See,
And these are all the numbers that are on the property cards. 23 Lyman at 1,994, 25, 1,314, and 36 Temple, 1,392. But across the street, you have 20 Lyman at 2,440. And so, you know, they are, some are under 2,000, some are over. But I just wanted everyone to know, we are not counting garages. We are using the total that we see on those property cards. I'd be happy to submit them too. The other comment is, I'm sorry our team didn't show 3 Lyman correctly, but you know, I did look at our drawings and found that our new house is going to be 29 feet to the peak, and 3 Lyman is 26 feet to the peak. And of course, it's not lined up. There's a drop of about 3 feet. So 3 Lyman is 26, and our new house is 29 feet.
Thank you.
From bottom to top.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this?
Can I respond to just small?
Why don't we let the woman in the back go first?
Hi, Amy Spielberger, 10 Manor Place. We're talking about the privacy on the sides of the house. What about the back of the house? There's currently a fence on the retaining wall, so I just wanted to know if there's any prospect of something being there when they start the construction, or if there's anything on the drawings for that.
Where are you again? I'm sorry.
10 Manor Place.
Oh, okay, okay,
So their backyard is our backyard.
correct.
And currently, there's a fence on the retaining wall, so we're talking about privacy on both sides, but I just want to know what's going to happen in the back.
well, I think that
Oh, and the
the
garage.
builder's saying he's gonna replace it in kind, right? So-
Oh, right, well, the garage is also,
So that comes out, there's no fence there.
right, yeah, there is no fence there when that comes out.
There'll be a fence there, obviously.
Okay.
He shows a stockade fence on this plan, but I don't, oh, not that plan, the new plan, I don't know if it's existing or not.
Yeah, he's showing the stockade fence still. It's all part
Thank
of
you.
this overall wall that should
Yeah.
have to get rebuilt probably, and fence. I mean, they're gonna want privacy for themselves, so.
Others? Yes, please.
Just two small.
Nope, he beat you.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to respond to the this placing of this forsythia. I had a survey done when I bought the house, and look, it's just kind of bubbles somebody draw, but for the most part, it is on the 11 Lyman property, as it's also kind of seen to the extent like these are built off of existing, so you can see that the forsythia starts here, mostly on that side, on the elevation point, and then it carries through. And sure, it does come around, and if, you know, I'd be willing to kind of do something, if there is an evergreen, it kind of comes around, the forsythia comes to the front of my property, that we have some continuity, so it kind of looks nice and together. So that's one thing, and then on the other is just a minor sticking point, but, you know, this house, zoom in here, this is 30 feet, 10 inches, so 31 feet more or less. And then the other one, I'm just trying to find where it was, but it's 29 feet, 10 inches, roughly 30. So there was a hole in the foot there. It was just 20. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Wait.
My name is Kishore Patel. I live on 19 Lyman Place. If anybody wants the new house, it's me. I've been looking at that house for years, going downhill. I just want to clarify something. It's keep coming up that my house is 2,500 square foot. It's 1,380. Since we finished the basement, it came out to 2,500 because it's a 1.5-story high. So that, I think we should look at the footprint, not so much of the square footage. Now, if they were finished the basement, you can just imagine how many square feet those houses are going to be. So my house, until the basement was finished, it was 1,380 square foot. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody?
Once again, Robert Barbera, 66 Luzerne Road. Last time I was up, I forgot to also provide you over 30 signatures of the people in the Knoll neighborhood that expressed concerns about how these houses will fit in. So I wanted to give that to you, and then I guess just going on what Amy was saying with her backyard, there is that garage that's there. So there is a stockade fence, and there's a garage that's right on the retaining wall. So if that garage comes out, there's going to be a big gap in the current stockade fence, right? So something has to be done.
So I just want to make sure that it's clarified, like, so for ARB, you're looking at excessive similarities, excessive dissimilarities. And while like site plan, you can look for like landscaping and stuff like that, but there's no requirement in the code that says like all views need to be exactly the same, or that, you know, if for some reason vegetation comes down, vegetation has to be replaced. So, I mean, there is certain deference you have, but I just wanted to clarify, like, for AHRB, it's really about excessive similarities, excessive dissimilarities. And site plan is really focusing on the plan itself. And, you know, a lot of these are coming from, you know, in public views as opposed to, like, from public viewpoints where all the public can congregate and not necessarily individual homeowner viewpoints.
At the moment, we're reviewing this under.
Yes.
As what?
Well, right now, I mean, it sounds like maybe
Site plan?
site plans, subdivision.
But, you know, it's good to be friendly with the neighbor. The neighbors are friendly and have, you know, it's good to hear what everybody's saying, I think, to understand what the concerns are. And, you know, the architect's going to try to address them, you know, as much as they can, I think.
So one other question, I guess, I don't know, if Dan, you're the person, is code now that you can build retaining walls out of cinder block?
No.
So he did mention.
He could repair,
like-
he could repair a wall in kind.
Yeah,
You can't
but he
build
said
a
he'd
new one.
replace it in like, so I want to make sure that he realizes that
If
it is
you're
cinder block.
replacing the whole thing, it's a new wall, it wouldn't be out of cinder block.
So I just want to make sure that that's, you know, in the records, right? And ideally, understand what that's going to be.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
One
please.
final question, how high a
Thank you.
fencing can I build? Because if that property is 5 foot and the shrubbery goes away, and I don't even have that anymore, I can only build like maybe an 8-foot fence.
6 foot by right.
6 foot, so I would get 1 foot of actual privacy, because I can't do it on their property, which is 5 foot higher.
Correct.
So that's kind of part of the reason, there's not much I can do except for.
But you can build higher, right, Dan? You come in and get it approved?
You can get a variance for
Yeah.
higher than 6
You get a
foot.
variance
But then,
to build a higher.
11-foot fence, that's kind of ridiculous.
It might be a little intimidating from your side.
Yeah.
I don't know if that goes with the record.
I mean, some of these issues are the nature of Dobbs Ferry. We're a very hilly village, and, you know, unless you're at the very top of the hill, somebody's always going to be looking down on you.
Right.
Remember, our Ed Plotkin used to say that this ain't Kansas.
Yep.
Is that going to the record? What happened to that?
I assume so. This becomes part of the record, I assume.
What do you do with that thing? Signatures. for-
Signatures.
Your decision.
We'll put in the building department file.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who has interest in speaking about this?
Oh. Wait a minute, he's leaving.
Like, no, I'm not.
Continue the public hearing?
I think we probably should continue it because we've asked for a couple
You think so? Okay.
I think so, one more time.
You want to
The
do it?
walls for the.
Well, we haven't seen the interior plans.
The elevations,
Okay.
also.
You asked for that one.
The two elevations that are still a little massive. I mean, I think it's close.
All right. So you're moving that we
Continue the public hearing.
I would, for at least one, for one.
continue? All right, I'd second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you
Okay.
for all the work you've done so far.
All right.
Yeah, I think this is hugely improved, and
Yeah.
you're
All right.
much closer.
Thank you, Mr. Dallin. We appreciate that, and we did take the opportunity, we, again, just want to know, we did hear all the comments, duly noted, we understand concerns, as every homeowner has those concerns, and we did not attend the last month's meeting, and we took the effort and the time to really dig in and see what we can do to address those concerns. So we're happy to be somewhat accommodating and come back with something that seems a lot better. And again, for any further comments or things that the neighbors, obviously, we would do all those appropriate things in any other development site or building opportunity where you have to have the sensitivity of the people around you and the neighbors. So I just want to, again, note that for the record.
Thank you. And thank all the neighbors for helping us.
Yeah, we had a lot of letters, and they were helpful
Yep.
and well thought out, and a lot of the commentary that we made from previous meetings was energized and informed by that.
Yep.
So we appreciate the
So
interest.
look forward to seeing you next month.
It's June 6th, by the way.
When?
June 6th.
Sir, what? You guys voted on something, but I didn't hear, so what?
Just to continue the public hearing until next month.
Oh, you,
And give them a chance to address some of the issues that have come up.
Thank you so much.
I'm like,
can we, sorry, I missed that. So we, can we go through that, why we need to continue the public hearing? Versus, I think for anything that's been requested, we've submitted that through this round. What is missing?
I just think there's some last outstanding comments that were raised about, in particular, from my side, about the unrelieved nature of two of the facade, of the long facades and one of the properties, I've forgotten which one. They're the issues of showing us what you want to do with the retaining wall, some kind of drawings that show what you think the end state is going to be. There were some landscape comments that were made about screening. So they're not big things, but they're things that we should probably, they're a little bit outside of what we would just attach as words to a resolution tonight. So
Can we go through that now? Because again, that would be somewhat of an impact for us to then come back again for, I think, for comments that we've already addressed.
you would have a resolution, presumably, there would be a resolution at the next meeting, and that would be the end of the approval process, assuming you address the few things that we cited. Taking care of one, you've taken care of the big ones, which had, in my opinion, which had to do with the overall similarity and massing and scale and contextual issues and so on.
So to clarify, there's two comments. One is the retaining wall, which again.
Showing what's going to happen, well, there are three, showing what's going to happen with the retaining wall.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
Okay.
The retaining wall would be a part of the permit application.
Right,
Well,
yeah.
let's clarify that. If we're going to another meeting, there's gonna be another submission, you could just put on the site plan where you're gonna repair the wall. You could show that now. So you're coming back with for next month.
I respectfully request to close the public hearing and not come back. We would note in the resolution what the requirements would be as part of the permit application.
That's up to the board.
I don't think so.
No? No? One more?
Yeah, I think there's enough neighborhood concern about these issues that we really need to come back with something on paper that shows what you're going to do there.
And with the,
If I may, let's just walk through that scenario. There's a pre-existing wall that everyone has seen. We're going to repair that. We are going to repair that wall in like kind. Whatever we see there now is
We
what's
don't
going
know
to.
how it's going to be
we don't know,
We would do it pursuant to code and compliance and engineering.
right, but we asked for drawings of those things.
That's what is part of the permit application.
Yeah.
That's not
That's
part of.
usually what we do.
that's not part of a subdivision resolution. Plans to how you're repairing a pre-existing condition or otherwise for site work as well, because we have no idea what's going to be on the site.
No,
We
no,
would-
typically for site work, you'll see details of a wall, materials used, that kind of thing, so.
For new-
Subdivision,
for new.
maybe not, but this is also site plan. Right, so it doesn't have to be an engineered drawing, like, let's say if you're gonna put back like a unilock type wall, you show a typical detail of a unilock wall. But I think you should define on the site plan the areas of the wall you're gonna fix and how you're gonna do it. If it's, there was mention of cinder block, or, is it gonna be that, or can it be that, or is it gonna be something like an interlocking wall, or, I think you can make that, pretty quickly make that
We
evaluation.
could, and we'd be happy to do that in the process of a permit application. I do not want to make that part of a subdivision resolution.
There's a site plan resolution as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And then this part of the site
So
plan.
the site plan has to have everything that's gonna happen on the site.
For new construction. This is again, we're now hanging the retaining wall as part of something that's pre-existing. To me, they're two separate issues. There's two separate concepts entirely. We would address the site, we would address the retaining wall as part of this.
It's part of the site work to repair the wall, so you have to show on the site plan the wall repair. I think it's a simple detail, and it's just pointing out where, that's
I
it.
appreciate that, but we spent the prior 2 months addressing the major concerns that are clearly more important. And again, we all know, and we're noting in the resolution, we're obligated to repair the wall.
Look, it's not up to me that you're coming back for another meeting. If you're gonna come back with another submission, I would suggest the site plan show those things on the site plan. That's my recommendation. That's typical for a site plan.
Can I confer outside for a moment, because I have a couple of questions?
No reason why.
This is a site plan, Rezo.
It's a site plan resolution, so all of these
So
things.
you just add the wall in here, or?
But we don't know what
But we don't know what it is.
Like normally,
And it's not,
describe all that.
but it's not
Yeah,
even,
part of it's right
it's not a simple wall either. There's a garage
The
there that
garage has to come
separates.
down.
It's like, it's all integrated. If you actually go there, I send photos to you guys,
Yeah.
and it's like, there's concrete.
Yeah, I guess what Dave's asking me is to clarify the process. Is the subdivision approved before the site plan is approved? And then AHRB approval? Because he's wondering, can the subdivision be approved without having to deal with the retaining wall? I think that's your question, Dave.
We would make it, again, it allows us to prepare the permit application accordingly.
The subdivision can be approved in,
Sure.
right?
Preliminary subdivision approval?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, just a second. In a minute. No, I'm not saying no, not yet. Yeah, you can do a subdivision approval. You don't even have to show the houses on the subdivision approval, you're just creating the two building lots. With other data, other information on there, of course. But yeah, you could do that and then do the two site plans separately from the subdivision and go from there.
Do we have everything in place to do that?
I don't know if they have they submitted a full plat?
Is the plat,
Right.
Did they submit a subdivision plat? I don't
Yeah,
remember.
they have. Everything's
Yeah.
complete with the subdivision.
So that we can approve.
Do we have a resolution for the subdivision?
Yeah, I mean, I had a combined resolution, but I can, clearly amend it just so that it's for just the preliminary plat approval.
And leave the few site planning issues still open.
Right, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Would that help?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, I guess Dave wants clarification. There's a subdivision can be approved, and then there's a site plan is separate. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Or is that
But the
part
site
of the?
plan requires the building inspector.
Well, we're,
Site plan, we have to review the site plan approval also. That's what we've been doing, really.
But that was part of my problem, past meetings, because the site plan doesn't need planning board approval.
so your application came in for preliminary plat approval, for preliminary plat subdivision approval site plan approval and AHRB. It came in all at once. So, right, so in order to help with efficiencies, we allowed for all three to be processed at once. If you choose to have only one of those applications move forward, then you need to have the preliminary plat, subdivision approval needs to happen first before you can get site plan approval on that site.
Site plan approval requires planning board review.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we've
Yeah.
been
To
doing.
the extent that it requires variances.
We thought,
The zoning board gets variances.
Yeah.
Zoning board is variance, but again, planning is, once the site, if the site plan is within code and compliant, what is the planning board reviewing?
They're reviewing the placement of the house and making sure it is going to be zoning compliant, and then they're also reviewing for landscaping, stormwater, all the site.
Retaining wall,
Right.
Right, but that's if it's not, if the building inspector doesn't determine.
No, that's not correct.
Everything comes back to this board to make a determination on it. It's not an administrative approval, it's a board approval. The site plans each have to show everything that's happening on the property, as Anthony had said before. So it's got to show the retaining walls, the landscaping, the tree that was made, the forsythia, whatever.
For all the new construction, yes.
Yeah, for everything. Yeah.
No, I think we can add notes to describe the condition of the walls and what we might have to do to replace the walls, but I think the concern is just simply time, because the retaining walls, it takes time to get an engineer in and to analyze it, get wall details, and we're trying to figure out what needs to be. Can we just put notes on the drawing, add the details later? Because I think
How high are the walls?
could open up a lot of problems, you know.
How high are the walls?
Probably 8 feet.
Yeah.
Anything under 4 feet, you don't need an engineer.
4 feet.
4 feet.
Anything
Well,
over
no, the
4 feet.
concrete, but then the fence.
Over 4 feet, you need an engineer.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
I mean, the walls I saw were 2 feet tall. I mean, they don't require engineering review or anything. All we need is something on the plan that says we're gonna do this.
Okay.
I'm happy to do so. I just want to, we're sensitive to time, obviously, now that we've taken time and effort to make changes. So is there a way to expedite or give the board the required notes they need in our process, in our whole process? With approval, given to the extent that there's no major issue that's now.
Yeah. Well, they still- right,
I
they
think,
still need
I'd say that's true.
all that, too.
What's true?
There's no major issue.
Well, there is, because the site plan, we still need to,
When you get preliminary subdivision approval,
right,
that plat then has to go to the health department. You realize that, right?
Well, I mean, it doesn't the final.
Subdivision.
Doesn't
For the final, the
yeah.
final.
So you'll still have to come back and you still have to get final site plan approval, I mean, it's final subdivision approval once you're finished the preliminary plat. So you will have to come back to this board, so.
So this board can issue a preliminary approval of the subdivision tonight, and then when you come back the next time, they can do final subdivision
Right.
approval, so that you can file the plat with the county.
Oh, that would
So you
be
have to
great.
come back
and
anyway.
then site
Right.
plan, and then we can do the
Correct.
site plan
Just-
approval.
You have to
then.
come back for final plat approval anyway.
Presumably you'll have all the title issue, the site plan issues dealt with.
So either way, you still have to come back.
It is a preliminary and final subdivision.
Correct.
Approval has to happen, so you're really kind of
Well,
stuck with that.
the other part, so you're saying that's.
You should take preliminary subdivision approval tonight. Come back at final and with the revised site plan next month. That's the fastest
Yeah.
course of action. And then you go to the health department.
In the meantime, you can look at what you need to do and have that on the site plan for our approval next month.
Well, they could use
way they
my
do
site plan.
So then they can.
I think
put
we'd
the
like
site
to
plan-
ask you to vote on the preliminary subdivision plot, please, tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, there's the-
Okay, are we ready to vote on the preliminary subdivision?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
proposal?
yes.
All right, whereas 11 Lyman Place LLC is seeking preliminary plat subdivision approval for the subdivision of the lot and construction of 2 new one-family dwellings. whereas the project was listed as an unlisted action in accordance with seeker. The planning board conducted a duly noticed public hearing on February 1st, and it was concluded on May 2nd. The planning board carefully examined all of the, and the resolution lists all of the materials that have been examined. I'm just, a couple other things. The planning board, now therefore be it resolved, the planning board issues a negative declaration in connection with this project. Further be it resolved, the planning board finds that a proper case exists for a park to be suitably, finds that a proper case does not exist for a park to be suitably located on the project site, and therefore it is your acknowledging that the applicant will pay in fee in accordance with the master fee schedule for one additional residential unit for fee in lieu of parkland. Be it further resolved, the planning board of the village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application for preliminary plat approval is granted. And the subject refers to outstanding comments dealing with the village planning board consultants, both engineer and planning. Also, I'm pulling out just the subdivision pieces. And then they have 180 days after 6 months after receiving preliminary plat that they must submit for final plat approval.
So, but we continue the public hearing for other issues.
Yes, the site plan.
And subdivision.
All right, I move that we
And subdivision.
we do that.
And second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So Christina, if you could just look at the two long elevations,
Oh, well, no problem.
then for me personally, I'm good.
How was this?
All right, what we got next?
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank all the neighbors that came down.
The first one we did?
No.
Next item on our agenda, item number 3, 515 Broadway, Greenberg Hebrew Center, continuation of public hearing for proposed exterior renovations, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're freezing too. Can you turn it off? Yes, please.
Right. So it's not about
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Jim Anacarico with Cronin Engineering, here representing the Greenberg Hebrew Center, and with me is Paul Bialowis from the Greenberg Hebrew Center. So in this latest submission to you, I believe we addressed 99% of the comments that the planner and the engineer had. There is the one or two sticking points, which is the aisle width of the small section of the aisle that doesn't meet the 24-foot width requirement and is 22. Anthony and I actually had a brief conversation today, and we discussed it a little bit. If you actually consider that the cars in that area could overhang the curb by 2 feet, you'd actually have another 2 feet. So I think that is, a valid, I guess, response to that. Anthony did point out one other spot. It's the spot that's adjacent to the end of the playground area that we're expanding. That lot, or that spot, didn't really have enough back out room. So what I did was I was able to look at this today before the meeting and move the spaces down. We still have 5 spaces there, and there would be a area that would be painted where there would be no parking adjacent to the playground retaining wall at the end, and the spot closest to the playground could back out with no problem. I actually can hand out a plan that shows those things if you'd like to see it.
Sure.
So just to clarify, oftentimes when we look at the length of the parking spaces, we'll consider a 2-foot overhang over there's a curb line and it's clear in front, with no vegetation or anything that they could pull up. So that is one way maybe to achieve the 24 feet, at least in the one location.
Well, I also see signage on parking areas that say small cars only, on a couple of spots and things like that. Is that something
I
that
don't
you
know if we
can-
have that in our code, like compact cars.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, one way to do it maybe, if you want to like kind of define that you need to pull up in those spaces, maybe put a straight line behind it, like define the aisle.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's a good
Something like
point.
that, just to help.
So what you're looking at, the 22-foot aisle is really only affected about 2 parking spaces anyway, 3 parking spaces. So the darker line just outside the southern curb, I've shown that 2 feet off the front of the curb. And then the dark line just behind the edge of the parking spaces is where that would be the 18-foot distance from one to the other. So if you look at the 24-foot dimension line, that's pointing to that continues all the way. So with that thinking, we would have the 24-foot.
Anthony, if I look at this correctly, it seems like a pretty small area that's affected by this.
Yeah, it's like 1 or 2 or at the most 3. I mean, yeah, because like the next spot has like the striped area behind it, so there's room and.
So if we wanted to, could we waive this issue?
I think with this provision, yeah, I don't know if it's strictly a waiver or not, but maybe the one spot on the other side, the 17-foot aisle, I'm not sure, that would have to be a waiver. And that one could be a little bit problematic if one of the 45-degree angle parking people park far out. It's going to be hard for that car to maneuver out of that
Right.
spot.
14 feet.
Well, it's 17 behind the 90-degree space.
Yeah, I think the
That's
14
one.
feet was okay, right?
14 's
Because it's a
okay.
45-degree
Right.
parking. It's
So
the
it's-
straight in on the
Exactly,
17.
exactly. So that one, I guess, would be a waiver, but, I'm not sure that really, that could be problematic.
This guy's out too far.
Even if we had to stripe that one spot next to where I striped at the end of the playground there, we could even do that and eliminate that parking space.
Motorcycles only.
Yeah, or that,
Bicycles.
yeah.
You can issue a waiver, though, for the non-compliant lanes, if you feel it would.
Say that again?
If you feel
We could do something.
good with
We
it,
could do
Yeah.
a waiver for the non-compliant lanes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Are you providing any charging facility?
No.
We don't need a public hearing.
This is the public hearing.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yep.
It is?
Oh, so I guess we should open the public hearing?
Second,
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
anybody in the public want to speak to this even online?
And I saw you picked up, you have a note
I just
about,
wanted to, hi, Paul Dialis from, I'm on the executive board. We have an early childhood center, and we have a summer, like a kind of a day camp for 3-year-olds. And we need to schedule the construction to work with the camp. And we have parents who are, trying to schedule their summer plans and work schedules. So, I just urge you to pass this so we can get started with the project. And if there's something about the striping, we're really just resealing our parking lot and trying to get the same number of cars in. But we could come back and draw different lines on the drawing to meet the requirements. But I just urge you to, we want to get started on some of the major construction parts Our entrance driveway now is in really bad condition. It's hard to even drive and access the parking lot. So anything you could do to expedite it would be appreciated. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
I think we're trying to do that.
What about the tree issue on your notes, Anthony?
The tree is gone. We worked with the tree commission. We had a tree plan that was permit was approved and
Yes, in this latest submission, I submitted the permit that was issued by Dan, I believe, right? For the tree permit. I don't know, maybe that was
So
just.
item 2 in Anthony's memo has been resolved.
Oh, the survey? Yes, so.
Item 2 was the parking.
Yeah, item 2 was the
I'm-
parking. Item 1 was the survey, the signed and sealed survey.
Mine was that you need a planting plan.
We submitted that to Dan. Yeah.
Right, but we didn't get it as part of the official application. It should be part of the site plan approval.
Okay, I guess we misunderstood. We just thought, at the last meeting, we were told to submit it to Dan and get the permit.
I submitted that to the tree commission.
Right,
Tree
I
commission,
understand that, and I
It's in
think,
there.
no, I understand, but I think the while the application went to the tree commission, technically, the application didn't need to go to the tree commission. It really needs to be, the planning board is the one that gives the final approvals for the site plan, for the landscaping plan. So that just needs to be submitted as part of your application package. So whatever landscaping plan you're doing, that just needs to be submitted as part of the application.
Okay.
That retroactive. And the signed and sealed survey was also something.
Yes. We were finally able to obtain that from the surveyor, so.
I think we're good. We're good with that.
Yeah.
So personally, I'm prepared to waive any issues with the parking. Okay, I think these are, a couple of, 2 spots or whatever are affected functionally. But Valerie, you brought up that their landscaping plan is,
Well, they need to submit that as part of the package. They haven't submitted it yet. They submitted the tree permit that they received, but they haven't submitted the actual landscaping plan as part of the package.
That's just not true. I mean, we didn't.
Well, it's not part of the official planning board.
Wait a minute, wait.
It's people behind the kids. I don't know what happens behind there, but I don't know.
I'm about to talk in favor of you, but you're talking. I'm about to say something that's favorable to you, but you're not letting me interrupt you. They submitted a landscaping plan for the tree permit?
I don't know.
Yes, we did.
Okay. Right, no, so I just don't have it as part of my package to review. That's all I was raising, is that when we do subdivision, site plan approval, it should be all part of the application so that everything gets stamped and signed by the chair.
They did put this on the site plan, the 2 trees, they did have it on the site plan.
Right.
2
The
trees that were taken
trees
out?
that were proposed to come out.
Right.
But did they have a replanting plan as part of it?
And they submitted it, for the tree permit, they submitted the planting plan.
Actually, if you look at my last submission for this meeting included the tree permit, which also had attached to it the landscaping plan.
that's good. Can we approve this with the understanding that the landscape plan gets resolved before a building permit gets issued?
So I don't have a resolution written for tonight for this because there were still issues with the waivers. There were still changes that were going to be done to the parking lot. If the board wants to close the public hearing and authorize me to do a resolution, but I still would need an updated, the plan that was submitted tonight is changed from, I think, from the.
For the park.
Right, for the parking, so I would need that, and then I would also, I can make it as a condition of resolution that the landscaping plan needs to be part of the overall, part of the package that gets signed.
But you don't have a resolution?
No, I don't, because there was too many outstanding items with the parking that was still needed to be discussed at this board.
Close the public hearing.
But you can close the public hearing, and, I mean, it's up to you. I mean, you can all, I mean, the zoning board, Dan Posen, I'll just push like, I know the zoning board of appeals will vote, and then they'll authorize us to write a resolution, and we just write a resolution, you know, and I can just, for the record, note what the resolution is going to state. You can do that if you want.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, you know, and you'd actually deliver a written resolution to the
Right.
board to review, but yeah.
Right.
So that could get them going today? Or do we need another month for this? I'm still a little confused.
Well, no, you could approve it today, I would still have to write the resolution and then send it over to the building department for, you know, for the record, but you could approve it tonight.
Well, they wouldn't be back next month.
Right, they wouldn't be back next week.
So we're eliminating this one space here, correct?
I'm not sure, what are we?
We're gonna
I
eliminate the
need to know
space with the
exactly.
17-foot.
We could do that.
Correct.
Sure.
Okay.
Strike that, and do we want to show a 2-foot setback, or you just want to waive the 20, allow for a 22-foot aisle? We show it with if they redraw it with a 2-foot overhang, then it shows a 24-foot aisle. I don't know whatever your.
Yeah, it won't change the parking space, the lines.
Right.
So,
Right, or do you just want to waive it for the couple of spaces?
How about waiving it?
Well, why don't, if you're gonna resubmit documents, just change this to show the 2-foot overhang, and
I can certainly do that.
that's
That'd be good.
that's 5 minutes.
Right.
Right.
The other thing is we'll need an updated zoning table too, if you're changing the parking counts, if you're eliminating certain parking. Right. So that would.
Yeah,
need to-
sure, we can do that.
So I think, so any condition, any approvals tonight will be conditioned upon a new submission. But like, I think we're gonna have to wait for the new submission so I can actually refer to it, because I feel like there's too many changes to the site plan to refer to this site plan with a lot of conditions, I think.
Yeah, understood. I would get you an updated set of plans and say Monday, Tuesday.
Okay.
That'd be fine.
Okay. All right.
And then I see you do have a note about coordinating with New York State DOT at the sidewalk ramp to there. Do you have more information? Do you have enough information from them so that if you do your driveway apron, you're sure it will align with whatever it is they're doing?
Yeah, yes, I have the
Okay.
plan from DOT and.
Just speak to that, DOT, or I don't know what organization has already started that.
Yeah, that-
Surveyors out there.
That'll probably be done before they start.
Good.
And it's, well, our driveway is no changes. This is Jason, a couple of feet away, I don't know how wide their curb cut's gonna be. Seems to be,
Aligning.
I think it actually will be good for us,
Hmm.
because, you have a lot of people crossing that street sometimes,
Mhm.
and it will be nice, so.
Good. Okay.
I think it's a great idea.
All right.
Okay.
So is there any other action tonight?
Just a vote
We close the public.
To-
for site plan approval.
Well, we wanna close the public hearing.
Right.
And then we're gonna have a vote on the site plan.
Okay. All right, I move we close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
And then you can vote for site plan approval. And then just for the record, they're gonna eliminate the space of where it says 17 feet. They're gonna submit a 2-foot overhang, and you're gonna give a waiver for 22-foot aisle width. And they're supposed to, landscaping plan. And also the condition, and one of the conditions is specifically also that they need to get DOT approval
Correct, right.
for the, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So should we vote on that?
Yeah, we need a vote.
You want to
Okay.
move,
All right.
President?
Um,
Or Alan?
You so move?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We really tried
Appreciate your
hard
time.
That summer camp thing really got to me.
They're so cute.
All right. Next item on our agenda tonight is item number 4, 99 Main Street. This is a referral from the Board of Trustees for proposed removal of, well, to do a lot, to build a big building. Bigger building.
This one also has a number of waivers, so after the applicant proposes, and you finish talking about the particular, and provide your comments, and if the board is interested in moving forward with a recommendation, we need to kind of go through each and every one of the waivers that they're needed, so that we can have that specifically to the village board as part of the recommendation.
Right.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Pete Gulick from Michael Lewis Architects here in Dobbs Ferry. And I'm presenting 99 Main Street for our client, the Genesis Realty Group, and their in-house construction partner, E.J. York. We were previously approved for work on the first and basement and first floor here, and we ended up doing extensive footing work in the basement that made us reconsider, and that's the reason that we're going up, proposing to go up an additional 3 stories above the first floor level. We've been to board presentation-wise, we went to the Board of Trustees, who referred us here. And last month, we had the pre-submission meeting, and we're here tonight for our public presentation. Should I go through most of the presentation because it's public now? Or just kind of skip through quickly some of the research and things like that? Is that,
Question, I don't know if the public hasn't, is it changed since last
No.
month? Oh.
No, nothing other than some clarifications and
Maybe you could just describe it generally.
Sure. I'll go through the drawings quickly, and then we can address the issues that we're talking about.
For people who haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. So this is the introduction sheet here. On the left, this is the existing 99 Main Street, 1-story building. And then on the right here, this is what we are proposing. It's to remove the existing first level floor and then rebuild the first floor at a second and third floor, and then set back a 4th floor at the discretion of the Board of Trustees and your recommendation. So that's the proposal for that. Now, just to go through some of the rest of the drawings. Get back to my sheet here. It's the site plans. Existing on the left, the proposed on the right. We're not changing the footprint of the building at all, so it remains the same. This is as far back as it goes in the rear, and we're just adding in the front and then stepping back up on the 4th floor there. On the basement level, again, we're keeping the same footprint. We're just rebuilding this back lower 1st floor level. And this is the lower offices on the basement level. You can see where we are in the smaller building section here. Then if you go up to the 1st floor level, this is Main Street. You got the existing plan on the lower part of the drawing, and then this is the proposed, where you come in through the center opening to a large office space. And then on the left-hand side of the building is the residential entry that goes upstairs to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor levels. And going up these stairs, you go down these stairs to the basement level, and then through the residential up the stairs to the 2nd floor level, which is here. Now, the existing 2nd floor is the roof. The proposed has 2 apartments, a smaller studio unit in the front, and then a 1-bedroom apartment in the rear with a terrace facing the Hudson River. Then if we go up the common stair again, you come up to the 3rd floor unit, which is a 2-bedroom unit with a terrace in the rear looking out to the river. And then back up the stair to the proposed 4th floor, which is stepped back as required, 12 feet from the front. And that's a smaller unit, and it also has a terrace in the rear looking at the Hudson. This is just the roof level. Just a plan showing all of the floor plans together. And now we come to the existing front and rear elevations, existing on the bottom, and then the front elevation on the right. From the street, we did as much as we could to make it look like a 3-story building. change materials on the fourth floor. We've also raised the parapet so that your sight line from the street, you can't see that fourth floor. Just a little bit of it you can see when you're standing all the way across the street. We have a diagram to show that as well. Here's the center entry here for the offices, and then the residential entry on the left. This is our little alleyway that's part of the property between 97 Main and 99 Main. And then this is the rear elevation, which is just two levels because it steps down in the back. And then the proposed rear elevation, where we're adding this second, third, and fourth floor. It opens up on the back out to the river with these terraces, so much different from the front, which is, you know, more contextual for Main Street. Brick, and we have stone, and then stucco on the sides, on the sides of the building.
You gonna do that stucco like this in waves like you see in other?
No, I think if anything, we'd probably just do a simple pattern on the floors or something along those lines. It's only 2 stories tall, or 2 stories tall on the north and then a little taller on the south side there. Going down to the next, our next drawing. Sorry, 1 minute.
No, it's a side view.
This is a side view looking, 1 second, let me just adjust it here for us.
That's kind of clever to have.
Yeah.
So this is if you were looking in the alleyway looking north. The existing building here showing 101 Main behind it, and then the proposed over here on the top with 101 Main behind here. You know, one of the things we were doing and not wanting to maximize the bulk was keeping the parking, not wanting to cover up all the windows on 99 Main. You can see there's a pink shadow. I don't know if you can notice that, the pink line here, but that's the maximum allowable bulk that they could have done in the project, but they decided not to. You know, for the reasons we just stated, for the parking, to be a good neighbor, to let more sunlight come down into the rear. That's that elevation. This is the elevation if you were looking in the alleyway past 101 and just seeing the 3rd and 4th floor of our building poking up beyond it. With the alley, this is really the alley between 101 and 103 that goes all the way down to the back of the property. And this is a section cut through looking north. Again, showing the terraces stepping back. We're only affecting 1 window here that we're going to cover up at 101 Main, which is it's a window in the hallway. So that's Joseph, the owner of 101 Main, is okay with that and the rest of the project. So that's the section looking up. This is the section looking down and south. Down here is the existing. You can see 97 Main beyond. And then as we're building up against the alleyway, not right up against 97 Main Street there. Here's our street view to show what it looks like in context. We're lower than several buildings on the 3rd floor on Main Street. And then this is another drawing that we had put together just to show, just to show, zoom in, we can see. When you're standing, mouse. But when you're standing across the street, looking up, you can barely see the top of the 4th floor. It's hard to see that line here, but you almost don't see the top of the floor, even when you're standing all the way across the street. And, you know, one of the reasons for that is because of the step back. Sorry, my finger's on this mouse. And then we also raised the parapet wall in the front here, 3.5 feet high, so that really kind of, when you're across the street, makes you see more of the front of the building and not that fourth floor behind it. And then this is the AHRB sheet with the materials listed. Again, in the front, we're using brick, stone, and then the metal windows and doors. And on the sides of the building, stucco, all similar to many Main Street materials, and fitting in with the context there. The brick on the front, and then there's a stone base, a darker stone base. On the rear, of course, it looks different, a little more open with stucco and larger windows. And that's the bulk of the building. Just to look at this one section drawing is easier, I think, when we start to look at some of the issues and variances we're looking at. Let me just do that one, the one drawing. Sorry. This drawing. So on one of the first issues is the idea of the fourth floor. So we know that that's a BOT approval, but of course with your recommendation. And again, the things that we've done to try to make that fourth floor seem smaller from the street is that we've pushed it back as required, 12 feet. We've also raised that parapet. It's a different material. So it really reads like a 3-story building, with that fourth floor behind it. And that's how we tried to minimize that as much as possible. So we'd ask for your recommendation on that to the BOT. The other issue is that we've got the fourth floor size, which is called for to be 50% of the floor below it. But in reducing the bulk of the building, this fourth floor could actually be bigger than it is. If we were to max out everything, that fourth floor could even be larger than we're showing it here. So that's a reason that we're asking for the variance on the size of that fourth floor unit. Another issue that we were looking at was the second floor apartment. The second floor apartment, we initially had 3 units in here. It's a fairly small lot and narrow. And we added the fourth floor unit, and that was a smaller studio unit in the front. We just didn't want to push too far back into the lot. So that's the reason that unit is a little less than 500 square feet, and the minimum is 600. So that's a waiver ask on that. And then the other issues that we were looking at were not variances, but the PLOP. We've got 5 added parking spaces that we're required because of the residential. And we have 2 existing spaces. So what we'd like to do on that is use a cooperative, is it, Valerie, cooperative parking?
Yeah, it's called cooperative parking, yes.
Shared parking between the 2
Shared parking.
Yes.
So that's, we'd like to reduce the PLOP on that from 5 units to 3, since we could swap those 2 spots. And we'd put a proposal in for that to show how we would work that out and do it.
Oh, excuse me, we have 2.
Yeah.
We need
5 additional.
Yeah.
So we're also hoping that on the 3 spots that get some benefit from the cooperative parking on that, in terms of how many spaces the PLOT would apply to.
And 3, yeah, hopefully 3. Another issue we had was, not an issue, but someone had asked about the affordable unit, a 5th affordable unit. Have we considered that? Due to the lot size, it's really tight to get a 5th unit in here. We could have done it, but we would have had to push back, make a larger bulk on the building. We would have covered up more windows.
Right.
And lost 2 of the parking spots we had. So those were the considerations, on this site. And the other thing that we were looking at, or we had considerations of, was the views. Are we blocking any views from some of the known view platforms in town? you know, and some of the view platforms are, there's two that might affect us. It's really hard to read the map here, but two of them are right on Main Street, so that you can't see the river at all or any views from those. And then the other one we have is just up the street here on Elm, right near the number 37 is right near the Historical Society. So this is really number 37 looking down. So you can't even see the building on this sequence moving down the street from these spots. So that was just something we had looked at to see what that was like also. And those were the main issues that we were looking at.
Valerie, can you?
So I have,
Oh, I was just curious what cooperative parking is.
So cooperative parking is if one use is, the peak of one use, for example, is like during the daytime and the peak of the other use is during the nighttime. Or the approving board could say, okay, then you would allow for those spaces to have, one space to have double use, and then you would reduce the number of parking spaces that are required. And so they're asking, since they have already 2 spaces and they're bringing in 5 additional units, they're asking for those 2 spaces to be considered as part of a cooperative arrangement, so that during the daytime, presumably, it would be like the non-residential portion, and then the nighttime would be the residential portion.
So the 2 spaces in the back would be for, say, business on the first floor, and then when that closes at night, depending on what that business is, then the residents would be able to occupy that space. Okay, thank you.
I just have one, I love this project for, I feel like it does all the right things, but of course I have a suggestion about something.
Sure.
Could you go to the side elevation?
Yeah.
For a second, because the only thing I would say is that when you see it, when you look.
Looking up, Rob, or looking down?
Looking at that elevation.
Yeah.
Facing.
Yeah, not
Facing
that
this
one.
one.
Yeah.
Because you do see a lot of, you're gonna see a lot of this. The building that's next door to you is one, right? So they do the same smart thing you do. The building next door is, well.
Midnight, right?
The one immediately just to the south.
The Midnight Run.
So if you're walking.
97, yeah.
So if you're walking up the street,
Yeah.
and you look, this is gonna be a very prominent thing on the streetscape. And so I would suggest a couple of things. One possibility would be, you said that this looks a little bit less like an impossibly thin building clipped onto something else. Would be the possibility of either continuing the brick expression as the base, or perhaps there are brick bands that correspond to the floors or something that makes this and this
Break it
feel
down.
like they're tied together.
Yeah.
And then also that these windows be treated in some kind of, at least have some minimal edge and sill that you see in some way. So I would just say that this elevation, I think, needs to be a design exercise.
Sure.
Because I think you're gonna see that as much as you're gonna see the front of the building.
Yeah.
What's the detail where the facade, is it, where the facade in that corner where the stucco and the facade meet? The front facade is brick and the side is stucco, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
So what's that detail at the corner?
At the corner, or the?
Where the
This is like
brick-
the flush. It looks like it's different, but this is all the same plan.
Right.
So the brick comes over and just turns the corner back 12 feet. And, from the street, you're seeing, we've got a fence here.
Oh, I get it, okay.
So it's really from here up.
Right.
Those are just placeholder windows. They're not, they will look similar.
Okay.
With heads and sills.
Yeah, so I would just, it's for you to design it. I just want to call your
Right.
attention to the fact
I
that
get
you're
it.
really going to see that facade a lot when you come up the street. And so it needs to be at least thought about. It's not the main elevation certainly, but you're going to see a lot of it.
And I think I originally almost maybe even had some of it stucco and Mike had said, hey, let's bring the brick around so that at least you're seeing,
Right.
from certain.
However they talk to each other, you'll figure it out, I'm sure.
Got it.
If we haven't, I want to open the public hearing. I move we public hearing. That's it.
Oh.
All in favor?
Aye.
We don't have much public left, but
Only the
You guys wanna
hardy- the
comment?
hardy few- Hardy few are waiting for their project.
Anybody online? No?
no, okay.
So this is a recommendation to the board, right?
That's correct for both AHRB and site plan.
Close the public hearing.
Yeah.
Nobody there?
Is there like a written document that, like, a written recommendation that we're submitting? Did
Well,
you
so.
draft something?
No, I did not,
Okay.
because there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, there was 5 different waivers that we need to talk about.
Okay.
And then AHRB if you wanted to see any changes. So I can make notes and I can make, put together a resolution or a document afterwards, but there needs to be discussion tonight.
Okay. No,
I think we're done though.
yeah,
But my only comment is about the pileup. I don't see what the benefit to the village is to
no,
do
Yeah.
a shared parking.
yeah,
Really?
like
I
them.
mean, anything that gets rid of parking downtown is
Well, I think a
I'm okay with
two-spot shared parking is a bit of a stretch. I mean, it's one thing if you've got a commercial
no,
and a residential building maybe, and they share 100 spaces, you can flex
You
that.
can't have it both ways,
No,
Otherwise, it's great.
it all works out.
Well, they'll be parking down the street where that new parking lot is and walking, right?
The 10-story parking garage, the Dan and I are building behind.
You mean the
Yeah.
Cedar Street lot where they're gonna
Yeah,
put
it's gonna-
Yeah.
affordable
It'll all
housing?
go away.
Oh, is that what they're doing now?
There's an RFP out for it.
Oh, okay.
So Valerie, do you want to lead us through the issues that we need to?
Sure, so why don't we start with the AHRB? So do you want me to send a positive recommendation on architecture?
And can it include just the one comment we did have, which was about treating that one,
That's the south.
the south facade? Otherwise, I'm good with everything.
I agree.
And you want me to treat the south facade, suggestion treating the south facade with additional,
With some additional detail as an architectural, whatever.
Not to be ignored.
Yeah, to be,
Without looking too,
whatever, for you to do your magic.
We'll make it look nice.
all right, then the next thing is the minimum residential unit size. So the DB district requires 600 square feet for studio, and they're proposing 487 square feet.
I know, just because I'm curious, was that about not creating affordable housing units or something that were so tiny that, I mean, what's the history of that position? Because this seems like a luxury unit. It doesn't seem like it would fall under concern about somebody getting too small an apartment.
So, I mean, the code requires 600 square feet, and they're proposing 487 square feet. So either, you can either recommend that the village board grants that waiver, or they seek zoning board of appeals approval for that.
I say we waive
I'm
it.
fine with waiving it.
The more smaller units, better.
yeah.
As long as I'm not living there. Because I'm not living there.
Then they're looking for the 4th floor, so let's start with that. Do you recommend the 4th floor?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so then one of the parameters of the 4th floor is that the livable floor area of the 4th floor, if permitted, shall not compromise more than 50% of the total floor area of the story below. So basically, they are proposing 80% of the total floor area of the story below, as opposed to 50%.
But as you pointed out, that's a function of having not maxed out other parts of the building, so I would say we support that as well.
I'm fine with it.
I agree.
Right.
And then the payment in lieu of parking. So they are, first of all, requesting for the payment in lieu of parking, and then they're requesting 3 spaces instead of 5.
So to pay for 3 pileup spaces, fine.
Yes.
Don't you think the DOT is almost in a better position to answer that question? I mean, they're the ones that set all that policy, and they're the ones that they can get complained to about not enough parking spaces. I almost feel like we should defer that.
That's up to you. I mean, if you
It's
want to
true.
defer
I mean,
that.
Yeah.
We could make a jump, well, I don't know.
Who here drives downtown?
I do.
I do.
You do,
I
you do.
Yeah, we drive downtown.
But I don't have trouble parking.
No,
Oh, no, I do. If I have to
no, I
park.
just park in,
I always find a place to park.
no.
I might have to walk a block.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
No.
So, I don't know, we don't all agree on the board about our position about,
Yeah, I mean, I walk downtown, so I don't park.
Right,
but,
yeah.
I just think, what's the benefit to the village?
I think the benefit of the village is getting more compact development downtown. I mean, the whole reason we built all this flexibility
But
in.
if they pay 2 more pile-up spaces, how does that, is
Well,
that gonna break the project?
Well, this is a good, I don't know, I think it's a good question though about where the pilot money goes.
Right?
That's maybe for another time.
Another board.
Huh?
Another board.
Another board.
Yeah.
But can we kick
Because
this-
presumably it goes to alleviating, it goes to enhancing other pedestrian things that help mobility downtown. I'm gonna give everybody the benefit of the doubt.
Can we kick it
assume
over to
that
the
every
DOT
dollar-
and say we only had 1 dissenter?
Let's do it.
All right.
DOT and we-
Yeah.
You are all behind the.
I think we should say that, I think we could say that the planning board supports flexibility in parking for infill buildings, and we're leaving it to the board of trustees to decide exactly what mix of which techniques they think make the most sense.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Did you hear what Ralph said?
Yes, I agree with that.
Especially appreciate the support.
This board hates to disagree with each other.
Okay,
We're pretty good. In general, we agree.
I think that's it then.
Thank you.
So,
By the way, we wanted to vote on closing the public hearing.
All right.
Little detail,
Yeah.
find out a year later that the public hearing's still open. Somebody comes up and says, I'm here to talk
can't
about
park here."
99 Main. You never closed the public hearing.
All right, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Good.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I can.
Pre-submissions.
Yeah, pre-submission conference for planning board, AHRB agenda. Number 1 is 327 Ashford Avenue. Continuation of pre-submission. God, we're bad. What's it?
Has this been adjourned?
For proposed removal of in-ground pool.
It's adjourned.
That's adjourned.
That's adjourned. Well, it's adjourned.
Until June.
Well, I just was going to tell people these had been adjourned. 235, all right, 235 Palisade Avenue, pre-submission conference for proposed subdivision of existing property.
Good afternoon, Patty Steinsteiner from Gotham Design, representing the owners of 235 Palisade, Nina Orville and Ed Moore. They tried to, it's kind of late, so I'm going to try and be quick on it. This is a really nice neighborhood with really nice houses that have a nice scale, nice relationship to the street, as does their house. Their house actually has a separate part of property that was, prior to their purchasing of the house, a separate lot. And it was approved back in 2002. Here's some quick photos, just kind of through the shrubs. You see there's actually a really nice place there to put a house. It's not, I know that there's concern obviously with steep slopes all the time, but this is actually, while it drops down from the street, it's actually a fairly nice lot on the inside. This was before the planning board in 2002, approved for subdivision. That's when the lot was created. The Citarellas owned the house and property at that point. Nina and Ed purchased the house, not the house and the lot. At that point, a year or two later, they realized they could have a really nice yard if they bought the lot. So they bought the lot. They enjoyed that as 2 separate parcels until Edie did her magic in 2017 and said that we're not going to tax vacant lots anymore on the basis that they're not really making demands. We're going to tax them on their property value. So a lot that's worth $500,000 is all of a sudden costing $30,000 a year in taxes. So they combined the 2 lots at that point. Now they are selling. They're moving to Hastings, I think actually nearby here. But downscaling as intelligent people do, as opposed to myself, when children have grown. So they are looking to maximize the value of what they're selling. They do not anticipate doing, they're not interested in doing anything with the lot in terms of construction, building anything. And they're going to be putting the house on the market soon, so they want to have it where the house and the lot are together. They won't sell the lot until the person who wants to buy the house determines whether they want to buy them as a package. But if the person, like they did, buys only the house, then they would sell the lot. So they want to reestablish that as a building lot. We have had the property resurveyed. We have all the topo. We're having a steep slopes analysis done because we want to make sure that with the deduction of steep slopes, we are in excess of the 7,500 square foot that's required in the area. We've done preliminary on that. We're around 8,900, so we're healthy on it. We also have done a hypothetical, totally hypothetical house here to just demonstrate that a nice house with garage, a house that's similar to the others in the neighborhood, can fit with this. We've done the analysis for the side yards, front yards, setbacks, all of that kind of stuff. We've looked at the impervious coverages and the building coverages for the hypothetical and for the existing house, because obviously we'd want to make sure that the existing house isn't made non-conforming by the subdivision. And I think, well, that's everything except we're probably ahead of ourselves with a plat map, since you're only seeing this as pre-submission. So, but we do have the plat map prepared, so when, you know, obviously at the right time, that'll be what we need to take to the county.
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
What's the slope? Do you have a, like, a section of the slope or anything like that, or?
You have some preliminary analysis you did, I saw.
I did a preliminary analysis on things, but I didn't do.
I mean, I peeked through that hedge and it's pretty level, except I can't see the back.
Right, and one thing, because I know we will eventually, I'm sure, because Valerie keeps trying to push and making sure it happens eventually, is getting clarity in our code with steep slopes. There is a section in the steep slopes that has a calculation that you do that was done by Jack Goldstein. We've used that. I don't recommend that we stop at that. I think we need to do the real study that has the contours showing what's this slope, what's that slope. But according to that formula, we comply. You know, it's not an issue, but I think that actually, I'm anticipating we're taking that out in the future at some point if people.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, we don't know where that's going.
Keeping that one alive.
Right.
It's, you know, if I was sitting here with a different attitude, I'd say, well, we don't have any issue because I proved that with that math, but the math, I think, is flawed. I think you need to do the old-fashioned way of doing contour measurements and calculating how much area is over 15, less than 25, and how much is over 25, which we will do and have for the next meeting, which we would like to have as a public hearing if we can do that.
So, I mean,
So my only concern with that is that we need to see like an actual plat, and they do need to provide the calculations so that we actually have like a complete application for the public to actually review, right? Because right now they're still in the pre-submission conference, and you know, I think Anthony, I mean, I don't know, Anthony, I think had a couple of comments too as well.
Yeah, I mean, mainly, you know, for just subdivision, we want to see just, you know, a feasibility kind of look at stormwater. You know, you showed some cul-de-sacs. It might have been done on the 2002 plan.
Well, no, we didn't have any drainage back then. People didn't think about it in 2002. What we did is we did, based on other projects that we're doing with perk in the kind of soil, and we made sure that we were like double what it would be. Chances are the reality would be a reduction in the number of cultures.
Yeah, you should submit some, you know, backup calculations for that, just to show feasibility of that system.
Yeah, we have a couple of weeks. Could it be where we call for a public hearing on the condition that we have the stuff submitted prior to the deadline?
So my biggest concern is if we call for public hearing for that, and then everything gets submitted, I will not have a resolution. Like, we have to have time for both Anthony and I to review stuff, right? So we can't have a public hearing and then try to go right to a resolution before us really being able to review it, be able to submit comments, and then there might be some additional revisions that are required. So it's up to the board. Either way, it's probably gonna extend till July.
But one thing we possibly could do, if it would help solve some of the needs of the property owner, we could do the preliminary subdivision approval at that point and have the resolution for the next meeting or whenever that's ready, because at least then they'd have a document that they could share with their realtors and not be at risk of misrepresenting.
I can't promise that. I don't feel comfortable with trying to rush something like this. I mean, you just came for, so I'm just, that's my opinion, but it's up to the board's, it's the board's decision.
Yeah, Patty, none of this was in the packet, the preliminary plat or any of that.
Preliminary plat was in the packet.
No, it wasn't. There's nothing.
And the
Yes,
zoning,
it was.
Preliminary subdivision.
No,
That's
that's the-
subdivision.
Right,
Right, but that's
the
not a
plat wasn't in there,
right. Oh, yeah. the plat
or the
was-
zoning chart or any of that,
And
yeah.
the zoning does not reflect the steep slopes, the zoning chart that was submitted.
Right. Well, the zoning chart wouldn't do that, the steep slopes analysis would. And then we'd do an adjustment for what the area.
The zoning,
of-
right, the zoning, if you look at the code, it specifically says net lot area for lot area.
Yep.
Your lot area right now on the plan that you
Listed
submitted.
was 11,000.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think you can, without a plat, I don't think you can call for a public hearing on a plat.
Preliminary approvals usually don't have the plat. The plat usually comes after
No,
you've gotten the preliminary.
If you look at the code, this is what we've been doing now for the past few they need to have a preliminary plat, and it's going out for public hearing, so the public is going to look at whatever, we basically, we're calling for a public hearing right now, the information that is available to the public is not it's not a complete application and a correct application at this point. There still needs to be some revision.
But it would be,
There's likely to be significant neighbor interest in this as well.
done 2 mailings.
So they need to be
I
corrected.
don't want to slow walk it, but I think we need to make sure we dot all the, cross all the Ts and dot all the
Sure.
Is and
But with
and
all
give
due
everyone a
respect,
chance to take a look.
We have done 2 mailings to the neighbors. The sign has been up since February. So the appearance here is probably representative of where things stand.
Yeah, but we don't know that. This is
Okay.
the first time in front of us. I mean, I think we have to follow their, leadership as far as rules.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, what's next?
Please continue to 6.
7 Beechwood Court.
It's not a,
All right, number 3 on our pre-submission, 7 Beechwood Court, pre-submission conference for proposed removal and replacement of existing retaining walls. We're doing all sorts of retaining walls here. And fence with new retaining wall and fence on this.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and planning board members. My name is Michael McGarvey. I am an engineer representing the application for 7 Beechwood Court. We submitted this plan at the beginning of February, end of February? I forget exactly when we submitted it. But we just received the comments from the engineer. And, I was reviewing them, and I was kind of hoping this would be a quick process, to be quite honest with you. If there's an existing backyard with a wood retaining wall across the back of it and a slight return on both sides. It's about 16 feet on one side, about 22 feet on the other side approximately, and all the way along the back. So all in, it's about 125 linear feet of retaining wall, wood retaining wall. We are going to put in the mesa block retaining wall because the wood is actually, it's rotten now. It's beginning to show the signs of rot. And so the owner, Elizabeth Barnhart, who's here as well, does not want to obviously have that happen to anybody or anything. So she's going through the expense of taking it down, putting up a stone mesa block retaining wall. In doing so, it's only about 4 foot, it averages about 4 foot high. And then there's one area in the back, in the southeast corner of the lot is 6.67 feet, or 6.5 feet, I forget exactly. Oh, thank you. Here it is here. This back lower right-hand corner, that's where the wall is 6.67 feet. Other than that, it averages about 4 foot in height. I read the comments from the engineer who You know, he's correct, and he's a very good engineer, by the way. But I don't agree with all of his comments. You know, for one thing, like, he's looking for topo. There's an existing wall. We're taking it down, we're putting it back up the exact same height. So the bottom of the wall is gonna be at one elevation, that's known. And I have it on there, how high the walls are at different intervals along that back wall. And the top of the wall be the exact height. And, you know, to spend $3,000 for a topo on a wall that's 4 foot high, to put it back to the exact same elevation, I think is a waste. Not only that, you can't even get a freaking survey anymore. They're booked.
Maybe, you know, maybe just something to indicate. To be quite honest with you, when I looked at the drawing, I wasn't sure which side was the low side, which side was the high side. You know, without going to look at it.
Okay.
So, you know, maybe just some indication of where the top and bottom is.
Top and bottom of
I
water.
was kind of, yeah, I think that came out of my confusion of looking at it, not sure what was happening there.
You really review these?
Sure.
No, I mean, no, I knew his office did. I didn't know he actually did.
I actually look at them.
Wow.
Believe it or not.
We do too.
Is this wall on the property line?
Yes, it is. It's just inside, it's on the applicant's property, as far as I know.
Right, but if you're gonna work on it, you're gonna have to
Well, we're
access
gonna
your
have,
neighbor's
we're gonna have to
property,
get
the
some
neighbor's
kind of
property.
property markers out there, yes, just make sure that when we take it down and put it back up, to verify that it is in fact on her property.
So I think what he was saying, you'd have to go on the.
During the
neighbor's property
construction
to work on it.
process.
Sorry?
During the construction process, you're gonna have to access the neighbor's property.
Oh, yeah, right.
Okay, so we've had other applicants where that's been an issue. So we need some kind of agreement.
Oh, that's great. Good. We like friendly neighbors.
So does she need some kind of an agreement, a written agreement that her neighbor gives them permission to go on her property to work on this?
She could get something for the building permit, but unless we have a problem with somebody coming in, we usually don't ask for it.
Okay.
No. That might be a special kind of, sense of
We've just had circumstances where the neighbor
Yes.
had concerns and they were never resolved and the wall never got built, and so we want to make sure there's no
Maybe it
friction
has
in the
by now.
process.
If you want to get a letter from your neighbor and submit it with the building permit, saying to have it on file.
Okay.
What was that question about block wall in the last application?
the CMU not being.
That was the cinder block. He asked if they could do that. In our code, it says a natural stone or the engineered block.
Oh, okay.
And it's because it's over 6 feet at some location, an engineer has to be involved, but that's you.
Correct.
I'm a professional engineer.
Okay.
I think, Mr. Chairman, we could waive site plan on this application, just as long as he answers Anthony's comments and stuff. If Anthony has any other comments.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I'm good with
I'm
that.
very good with that. All right, I move we waive.
Second?
All in favor?
Hi.
I'm waving.
We're losing Rob here.
All right, good luck with your project.
Thank you.
I do have an ARB resolution ready, because Dan and I spoke about maybe potentially waiving this. So I can just basically, 7 Beechwood Court, now therefore be it resolved, the ARB of Dobbs Ferry determines that the finding reasoning set forth below the application for AHRB approval is granted, and it refers to the engineering plans that were dated March 6, 2024, and last revised March 27, 2024.
Good.
And, okay, and I'll revise it again to include top wall, bottom wall, correct, for Anthony?
Right.
Correct.
Just make it clear, like when we made these comments too, the second comment asking about cut and fill, that you're putting back the same wall at the same height. I don't think the drawing really scream that out at me. That's.
Okay,
That's fine. We also had to cut.
all right, not a problem.
All right?
I will
So,
definitely address
that's
that.
fine.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
I don't know if anybody voted.
We have to make a
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah, you actually have to
Okay.
vote.
I
Just for
move.
the record.
Okay, second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Good luck.
Appreciate your time. I know it's a long night for you guys.
Okay. The last item on our agenda is 5 Chestnut Court. Pre-submission conference for proposed exterior renovations, including new deck and retaining wall. Good evening.
My name is Miguel Sostra. I'm here representing Ben Carlson, who has property on 5 Chestnut Court. We are removing a retaining wall at the rear of the property that's made out of railroad ties, pushing that wall back to the edge of his property. Beyond that is the HOA Association's property, which we have permission to work on, and he's extending his deck. The application is very similar to the previous application. I would like to waive the requirement for topo also. We are putting up a 4-foot-high retaining wall. On my drawings, I indicated the amount of excavation, the 18 cubic yards at the back, and we're just pushing that wall to the back of the property. So the wall resides here now, and we're pushing it back to this corner.
Now, is the deck getting bigger, or are you gonna rebuild the deck and as?
That's
The deck's getting bigger. It's going from his house to the back of the new wall. Now it goes from the house to the old wall, and the wall's going further back, so we extend the deck.
Are there any requirements,
They're gonna
site
need,
planning requirements regarding that,
for what?
for the deck, increasing in size?
No, it's, the only thing is, with their wall, they're gonna be doing work on, HOA's property, the common area, so they're gonna need some kind of letter or agreement from the HOA.
Right. That's what I was wondering.
We have that. It wasn't submitted with this package.
And,
The main issue I had with that also was the way the detail shows, you have geogrid reinforcement extending behind the wall.
Yes.
For a 4-foot wall, which, by the way, you may not need, you should look into that. If you're gonna do that, now you have part of the structural components of the wall permanently in the common areas. Do you have permission to have permanent structure
Yes.
of the wall in the common area, or do you just have permission to work within the common area for a temporary
We have
timeframe?
permission, so it's a small 6-board HOA, board member, since it's only 6 units. And the homeowner is on the board, and he has permission to do that. I have a letter that was submitted with the original review. It wasn't submitted with this package, but for the next review, I will have that letter submitted with the package.
Okay, so whether or not, I mean, I don't, the legality of it, I can't speak to. Again, I'm not sure you need geogrid permanently behind a 4-foot wall. There are other wall types you could use. Don't use geogrid reinforcement tiebacks like that, if it's only 4 feet high.
Okay.
But to have the geogrid permanently in the common area, is there, maybe Dan can opine on this.
Yeah, we'd need to see that.
Yeah, is it, you know, it's not part of their
Right.
parcel, right? It's in a different common area, but it's so, you know.
Right, the point is that it's not just going to be working there, but it's going to remain there.
Right.
It's remaining on their property. We need confirmation that that's acceptable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or choose a different system.
Right.
Of course, right, I will either have confirmation that that's acceptable, or I will choose a different system. This is the system that the homeowner requested. He does not ever want to touch this wall again. So we did a little bit of overkill.
There's something more than a letter is needed, like an easement or something like that, it may not be worth doing, you know, so, you know, look into it.
Okay. And if I could, just list the heights of bottom of wall, top of wall.
Yeah.
Relative distance off the grade.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, yeah, I'm fine with that. And maybe just an estimate of how much material you'll be removing, as you're cutting back.
I have that in the drawings, about 18 yards.
Okay, good.
So this is pretty small. Can we waive this based on approval for Anthony's and Dan's, if he has to get involved? approval, or is this gonna need more
It's
attention?
a little bit with the, I don't know, with the HOA letter, and if there's gonna be an easement or what it's gonna be, I think maybe.
And we need to resolve that?
I don't think you probably don't need a public hearing, right? Or do you need it?
I don't know.
I mean, do you want to just have them, they could come back for a pre-submission conference again with the remaining information, and at that point, the board's
Then we might-
comfortable, then you could just vote on AHRB and waive the site plan.
Okay,
Yeah,
All right.
all right.
that's how.
I have a question, though. When you look at it in, with a satellite view, there's a lot of trees. Are they in the common area?
Yes.
So there are no trees in the area where you're gonna do the work?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's all screening from Broadway.
Well, this is all trees in
And
here.
you don't actually see these buildings.
I know. Okay.
All right. All right, so we'll,
All right, so you know what you gotta do?
Yes, just one confirmation, I can tell my client that he doesn't have to hire an engineer for the topo.
No,
see you again next month.
thank you.
I move we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm totally in favor.
Good plan.